Happy mid-morning, guys. All right, so we have our news that just came out, and it's going to be interesting to see how the media reports all of this. Cacklin Kammie has announced her VP pick, and it's Governor Tim Walz from Minnesota. In other words, she picked somebody that pretty much most of the country's never heard of. So I did some research on this guy. Now, we know he is a avowed leftist. Kammie had to find somebody that was just as much of a follower of Marxism as she is. But before the media portrays him out as another kindly old gentleman who was raised in Nebraska and has been a teacher in Minnesota and has these great Midwestern values. Now, let's take a look at some of the great things that Tim Walz has done in Minnesota, okay? You guys remember the Summer of Love in 2020? George Floyd? That was all in Minnesota, if we remember. And Tim Walz was governor. He was elected and took the mansion in 2019. Okay, so this was all under his tenure. So while Minnesota was burning to the tune of somewhere around 1,500 businesses were burned down, okay, Tim Walz refused to call in the National Guard to quell the violence and actually had the audacity to come out and publicly say that the violence was being caused by drug cartels and white supremacists. Okay? So yes, here's somebody who doesn't even have a clue what's going on down the street from where he lives, yet we are supposed to think, hey, this guy will be good for the entire country in Washington. So we know the issues that are going to come up in the election. Crime is certainly going to be one of them, and we all know that crime is going up. Crime reporting is going down, but we know crime is going up. Again, you can't open up a website any day of the week without finding out that, an illegal killed or raped or kidnapped somebody again, right? Since Tim Walz has been governor, crime in Minnesota has increased 9.1%. Oh, and just in case you wanted to know, he's a staunch supporter of defund the police. Go figure, okay? Now, like I said earlier, he's formerly a teacher, okay? He started his teaching career in China because, that's where most Americans go, you know what, I'm going to go look for a job, and I think China's a good place to do it. So when he ran for governor, both in 2018 and 2022, he portrayed himself as an educator, strongly believing in schools and that kids need to get a good education. Yeah, let's take a look at the actual outcome of his policies. Minnesota's 4th grade reading level and Minnesota's 8th grade math level, y'all remember those standardized tests we took? Okay. They are the lowest Minnesota has been in 30 years. Okay, so the great educator destroyed the school system. Cool, there we go. Not that any of us would ever dare put our kids in public school anymore. But even if you go to public school, hey, you know what? Your kids won't know how to read at a 4th grade level and can't do math at an 8th grade level. Wow. Math at 8th grade. We're not even to algebra yet, guys. This is still long division. Okay? Try balancing a checkbook if you don't know how to do, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Good luck. Way to go, Tim. Okay. In 2018, just before Tim became governor, Minnesota was ranked as the 5th best state to do business in. Own a business, work for a company, companies moving there. Now, it's 17th. Okay. Nice job, Tim. Okay. Sticking on the business line, under his governorship, Minnesota fell behind for the first time ever the GDP. The U.S. GDP, for the first time ever, overall, is higher than Minnesota's GDP. For the entire ever. Since Minnesota became a state, Minnesota's GDP has always been something that's brought the U.S. up. Under Tim, it's a drag on the GDP. There we go. More good news if you've got a job up there. Right? Okay. Let's go into his energy policy. Tim Walz has committed Minnesota to being 100% electric, no carbon emissions, by 2040. Okay. Yeah, it gets cold in Michigan. Cars don't work. They get a lot of snow in Michigan. Solar panels get covered in Minnesota, not Michigan. They get a lot of snow up there too, covering solar panels. Yeah, shovel your driveway, shovel your solar panels, because it's all going to be electric. And of course, this has now caused Minnesota to have the second highest electricity rates in the country, only behind California. Since Tim has been governor, electricity rates have gone up 61%. There you go. How about that for adding to inflation? Let's see what his policies will be if he wound up the VP. Okay. Minnesotans love his policies so much, they now rank number 11 in people leaving the state. They are losing 1% of their population every year and have been every year since he's taken office. If they actually would have counted the 2020 census correctly, if you guys remember this, because there was a screw up, Minnesota would have actually lost a congressional seat and an electoral vote. And the way the state's going now, they certainly will in 2030, might even lose 2. Okay. Because people are leaving because the economy under Tim Walz sucks. The crime rate is up. Hey, Tim, you're doing a great job for your state. Cool. You're competing with California, that other shining city on a hill where your moron of a boss is from, who ran that state into the toilet. Okay. Of course, for the only talking point that the Democrats have, and he's a staunch supporter in abortion being legal in all cases. Great. Oh, and of course we want to get into drugs because we've got to do that. He is a strong supporter of legalizing marijuana for both recreational and medicinal use. Okay. So, hey, if you can't pay your electric bill, at least you can get stoned and forget about it. Okay. Want to go back to our lovely 2020-2021 debacle? Yeah, Tim was one of those governors who shut down his state. All the businesses, all the schools, all the churches. Oh, yeah. And he was one that was adamant that everybody had to get the arm tickets. There's somebody I want running the show. Okay. And just for the last one, he's staunchly anti-gun. He's a firm believer, right with Kamala Harris, that we need to have gun confiscation. Tim Walz is an avowed Marxist, okay? Just like Kamala Harris. And this, if you want socialism, hey, there's your ticket. The funny part is, as we come through all this, it had to be somebody as milquetoast as possible. Remember Hillary Clinton picking Tim Kaine, somebody else nobody had ever heard of. Because you got to find somebody that won't outshine you. Well, Tim Walz is certainly not, he's got the personality of a Jell-O mold, so not exactly going to be anything exciting. Well, it should be really interesting if the Democrats agree to a debate, okay, and watch Tim Walz go against J.D. Vance. That would be funny, because J.D. Vance will again mop the floor with him. The Republicans should be celebrating this. I mean, none of the well-known people, the Gretchen Whitmers, the Michelle Obamas, the Gavin Newsoms, the Hillary Clintons weren't on the ticket. You know, they had to get rid of the Josh Shapiro potential pick because, hey, the Jewish angle there, you know, God knows we can't risk losing Minnesota or Michigan because of the huge Muslim population. So they went with, let's take Minnesota off the map. Chances are they will. When Minnesota was potentially going purple. Still might, okay? But you got to remember, Minnesota will vote for their own. When Reagan beat Mondale being from Minnesota, Minnesota was the only state that didn't vote for Ronald Reagan. So you can put Minnesota into the blue column now, which is fine because nobody was really expecting that to be a real big pickup. It may turn Wisconsin blue, may tip Wisconsin a little bit. But again, I don't care. I've said this forever. 2 states matter, Georgia and Pennsylvania. If those 2 go red, the election's over. Everything else is gravy on top. By not picking Josh Shapiro and by worried about the Muslim votes, it's a very good possibility that the Democrats just lost the Jewish votes. Good. Maybe the Jews will finally wake up and go, the Democrats hate you. Okay? Let's understand this. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Tim Walz all support Hamas. Okay? They want to see Israel destroyed. That's a fact. You know, you can go look it up anywhere. Just don't worry about listening to the idiots who are trying to spin it. Okay? You know, we don't send money and food and weaponry to Palestine unless we want to support terrorists. Okay. What happens with Michigan? We don't know. Okay? Michigan may still tip blue. So Pennsylvania and Georgia are still the key. If I'm the Trump campaign, I'm celebrating this pick. They should be able to tear the whole ticket apart now as being socialist communist. With the exception of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and maybe a little bit of area up around International Falls, the rest of the state of Minnesota is red. Okay? So now it comes to the point of, what's going to happen? But yeah, that's the news. We now have the Dumb and Dumber campaign on the left. You know, like I said, we've got one who can't put a sentence together in Kamala Harris, and we got the other one who could put a strip club to sleep. You know, boring and dumb. This is what we got. But it should be fun now, because now we know exactly who the competition is. And Bozo Circus can now get on the campaign trail. Pinball out.